Gold and silver break out from their 50-day moving average, but will it hold? Chris Vermeulen from the Technical Traders.com joins us today to share his insights on that topic and more on this week's edition of Metal Money. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira. Chris Vermeulen, thanks once again for joining us today on Metal Money. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Patrick?
I'm doing great. Chris, when the presidential election results were out, why did we see an upside move for gold and silver prices where they rallied with the news of a Biden victory?
I think there's a lot of mixed signals out there, and even today alone, there's more mixed signals. But back when we saw the big rally last week in metals and miners, I think it was just a lot of uncertainty. I think it's a mixed house. We don't know what's going on. There wasn't really a full election yet. Like we didn't know who was going to fully win. It's still not really over by the sounds of it. So there's a lot of fear moving in, and those are kind of the kind of defensive plays. There's going to be stimulus rolling out. We don't know what's going on. There's a new president, so everybody's a little nervous. And we saw big money move into those sectors. And really, in the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing tiny shimmers of hope that those metals and miners are becoming more of a defensive play. So that's why we saw a big wave of money, I think, move in last week. Today, it's a bit different story. We've got some headline news that is shaking the world, and now it looks like Biden has won. And I mean, people have confidence now. There's a lot. I'm not too much into politics, but from my perspective, and I'm in Canada, so I'm looking into the U.S. I'm like, okay, well, now they have a new president, which is great to know that, okay, there's a leader. It's, there's a definitive answer. There's a mixed house, which means there's not going to be anything extreme one way or the other. There's going to be a constant kind of middle ground. So it's going to, I think, make for 4 years of a more stable, not so crazy off one way or the other. And I think that's added a lot of confidence. And then, of course, this morning, we heard Pfizer's come out with a really good vaccine. And now everyone's like, whoa, okay, we got a president, we've got stimulus coming, we've got a vaccine that's 90% effective, which means people will get cured or help prevent the vaccine. Business sales should start picking up once it gets into place. The vaccine works its way through the system. So, I mean, we're seeing a huge pop in the markets today. And if people are comfortable and confident, they don't really want defensive plays like gold, silver in miners. So, I mean, they were looking amazing last week. And then today, one big piece of news comes out and completely turns the market around. And this is what I've been trying to tell subscribers and other traders is that you got to be really careful around the elections. There's going to be lots of news. We've got COVID creeping up, record cases in the States every day now. And then we got these vaccine kind of landmines of, here's another one, and then it fails. And then here's another one that works, and then it fails. And so this is another case today moving the market. So it's definitely a little bit of a landmine still. Got to be really cautious.
Okay, we touched on the possible vaccine here, but are lockdowns in various parts of the economy a way to contain the pandemic more likely now that Biden is president? And will the market read this as a further slowdown to the economy in the weeks and months ahead?
It'll be interesting to see what Biden does if, he wants to crack down on COVID. That's his number one goal. I mean, it works out perfect that he kind of becomes the president over the weekend, and then a vaccine comes out the first day he's in. He's walking into potentially a perfect storm or a super bad economy that could actually thrive for a long time with stimulus and vaccine. So the last two presidents both walked into a total storm, a nightmare of financial issues. But anyway, I think it'll be interesting to see what he does if he does lockdowns. Now, I remember Trump saying, we're not going to lock down America again. But I mean, maybe Biden could put some very strict rules. He could easily say, well, that was a different president. And if we want to keep our families safe and get back under control, we need to lock things down for a little bit, and we'll juice up the stimulus plan. I could see something like that happening. I mean, it only makes logical sense if things are that bleak. You've got to put things on hold, get it back in control, and they'll just print more money, which is good for precious metals, to kind of just do helicopter money into everyone who needs it, right? To keep the small companies surviving and paychecks rolling and keep people employed.
Yeah, to touch on that a bit, we saw gold and silver break above their daily 50-day moving averages, and as a chartist, is this enough evidence to show that the short term correction is over despite the downside that they're having right now?
At this point, from a technical standpoint, we saw gold, silver, miners all break to the upside out of a big pattern last week. So that was a really good sign. Now, it was only one day it closed up there. Here we are on Monday. They're back down testing that 50-day moving average, that breakout level. So we're seeing a big pullback. But the whole sector of precious metals is pulling back on this bullish news for the stock market, and they're all settling into a support level. So it's going to be really critical this week if the metals and the miners can hold these levels that where they broke out of last week and continue to build a base. Now, I think there's still a very strong story for metals, but right now people are just feeling overly optimistic with a president and now a vaccine. So it just puts metals on the back burner for a little bit, people pulling money off, and they're piling into the small cap stocks. I mean, if you look at the Russell 2000, it's up 7% today in pre-market, and the NASDAQ was up 1/3%, almost nothing. And it just goes to show that the small cap companies are the much smaller companies that really the vaccine really affects. They are more brick and mortar. They're more normal businesses, not the online style. So now that there's a vaccine out, money is piling into these small companies that have been beat up because the outlook looks good going forward. Business might get back to normal with the vaccine, a year from now when it starts to get around and inject it into everyone if you want it.
Any latest technical analysis patterns showing on gold, silver, or even the dollar index charts that warrant some attention for us at this moment?
Yeah, I really like the metals sector. I think they're all pointing to higher prices. We need to see it. So as of last week, everything had a very strong chart pattern. And last Friday, the markets broke to the upside, last Thursday and Friday. And so that was a buy signal for the market, for the precious metals sector. Now, today they're pulling back, but overall they're on a buy signal and they're pointing to much higher prices. So really, we just need to see how this news is going to affect things. They all have a bull flag pattern, which a bull flag pattern is kind of a halfway point in a pattern. So whatever the first run up and then it flags out, that the second half of the move should be equivalent to the first kind of rally section. So there's some big gains to be made, and especially in like gold and silver miners, we're looking at like anywhere from a 40 to 60% potential gain over the next 3 or 4 months if this pattern actually plays out like it's been pointing to. So there's some short-term fear in the sector, but overall it still is primed and ready to go. And it's on day 2 of a breakout. We'll see if it can hold these patterns and go from there.
Miners, we've seen their ups and downs, precious metals ups and downs. But let's say Biden has some time in office and he's indicating a green push. How are these renewable energies going to look?
Yeah, I think they look. I mean, they've had a huge run this year. I don't know if the market's been pricing Biden in since the March lows or what. But I mean, you look at the solar sector, there's an ETF that covers a basket of them called TAN, TAN. I mean, it's up about 270% since those March lows. So big money's been moving into this solar sector. And obviously infrastructure and green energy in general, I think is amazing. I mean, we've got the technology to do it. There's been talks with Elon Musk that they're not talks with, but he's talked about it himself, that he can do a place, I think, in New Mexico and power like half of the United States from solar systems. And I mean, all these things could happen. And it would be amazing if we could take control of these renewable free energy sources and get rid of, coal and crude and all these other things that are high pollutants, right? So I think there's a huge potential there. Biden wants to push towards that. And that sector has been on fire, I guess, front running that excitement. But really, the solar sector is still in the infancy stage, I think, going forward.
Okay, so pay attention to the news, small caps, gold, silver, and miners. Will pay attention to it all. Chris Vermeulen, we thank you for your time and coming back on the show, and hope we can do it again.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Take care.
There you go. Precious metals break out above their 50-day moving average. Will the bull market continue to run, or will traders see it as an opportunity to sell? As always, let us know what you think in the comment section below, and remember to keep it liquid, keep it real. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Metal Money.